Hello, and welcome to The Content Bite, a podcast for freelancers who use their words to make money. I'm Rachel Smith, a freelance journalist, copywriter, and content producer. I'm also the founder of Rachel's List, a jobs board and community for Australian writers and other creatives.
And I'm Lynne Testoni. I'm a journalist and content writer as well. Rachel and I are your weekly co-hosts, and every week we bring you all kinds of tips, tricks, and some fabulous guests to help you make the most of your freelance business.
I used spreadsheets for 15 years, but when you freelance, the time comes when your business gets more complicated, and I needed something more. And Rounded was the accounting software that finally converted me. It helped simplify tax time while still letting me take ownership of what goes on in my freelance business. It also gives me heaps of visibility over my finances. And although I use an accountant and a bookkeeper, that suits me because I like to see exactly what's happening with my cash flow.
Right. And don't forget, gold members of Rachel's List can save 20% on the first year of any annual Rounded plan.
Hi, Lynne. How are you going?
Oh, good. It's a new week, new start. Yep.
I know. I'm coming to you today from the beach because I'm staying with my parents for a few days over the school holidays. And we just did a walk over the headland, which was very cold and windy, but beautiful.
Oh, well, that's nice.
How was your last week?
Oh, it's been a bit full on. I'm pretty busy, but getting there, and yeah, it's all good. Yeah. But yes, there seems to be a lot. I mean, I hear that people are a bit quiet at the moment, but that's not been the case with me, I must say.
Yeah, same with Rachel's List. Jobs coming in. Normally the school holidays are a bit quiet, but we're getting some good roles in. And also very quick shout out about the Content Bite Summit, which is coming up very fast. I think I looked on the thing and it said 66 days. Which made me go, oh my God. But if you're listening and you are thinking of coming along, we have full VIP tickets available, and you can also grab a one-day pass if you're not able to come for the whole thing.
Yeah. We've also got virtual tickets, which are selling really fast, and I think that's great. And if you like to work from home and watch and everything, so if you're interstate or overseas, that's
absolutely.
A great option.
Just you can check out everything on the contentbitesummit.com.au. But without further ado, let's get on to our guest today. She is someone that many journalists may know or be aware of, or you'll be aware of her amazing resource for journalists, Sourcebottle. This is really exciting. We've both been using Sourcebottle for years, haven't we?
Yeah, I've been using it for years, and I think it's a great source, and we're a resource, and I think we're really surprised how many people don't know about it. So it seemed time to get Bec on.
Yes.
Shall I just introduce her?
Yes, please.
Okay. I'm really excited about introducing Bec Derrington. She's a veteran public relations professional and a working parent. And she had an ongoing frustration with the relationships between journalists, PRs, and businesses. And so she kept thinking that unsolicited PR pitches wasted journalists' time. She also felt that thousands of interesting subject matter experts and businesses were going unnoticed because journalists stuck to their usual sources. And I think we can all relate to that. Yeah. So in 2009, Bec developed an answer to this ongoing issue, Sourcebottle, which is a communication platform designed to connect journalists and bloggers with case studies and subject matter experts. Sourcebottle has changed the media landscape by helping journalists identify fresh, unrecognized sources quickly by giving business and PRs a great platform to communicate. So now Sourcebottle serves users across Australia, New Zealand, North America, and the United Kingdom. So I didn't know you were international, Bec, and she's considered to be an industry thought leader on global PR services and entrepreneurship. And she lives in Melbourne with her husband and 3 sons. Welcome, Bec.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
It's great to have you. It feels like, we're talking to a bit of a rock star.
So underwhelming.
Hearing your bio being read is always overwhelming. People say that.
Oh.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about your background, Bec, and how it led you to launching Sourcebottle.
Well, so I'm originally from Queensland, which I'm happy to talk about during the State of Origin series this year. So I'm originally from Queensland, and I was a really lousy lawyer for about 3.5 minutes, and I was so miserable, and I was working in building construction litigation. So it was really well
Yeah.
suited.
Wow.
Like, you can tell that that's something I'd be really good at. And I just was so miserable. So I decided to start again. I went back to uni and did what I always wanted to do, which was sort of PR, marketing, corporate communications, that sort of thing. It was actually much more in my wheelhouse. And so I did that. And then I fell in love and I moved to Victoria, Melbourne, so back in 2001, and sort of started working in that same space. And then I had a baby and sort of wanted to work on my own and for myself. And I started a communications sort of PR/marketing consultancy called Wagging Tongues. And I realised I had no media contacts at all. So it was really ineffective. And I was working for lots of disparate clients. So I had no relationships with the media. And I'd worked in sort of PR and media relations in Queensland at the Queensland Law Society. So I sort of really understood that world and loved that world, but I had no networks down here. I had no relationships. I was working for lots of clients in sort of disparate industry areas and thought, oh my God, how do I get any traction here? And then it was sort of at that time when crowdsourcing was becoming a bit of a thing.
Yeah.
Twitter was kind of my favourite social media platform. It's still, it was until Elon Musk took over. But anyway, and so that's kind of changed. But Twitter was really useful at that back in 2009. So I kind of just thought, what about if I created a platform where journalists could call out for sources that they wanted, and we as a collective could combine and make sure that they found the sources that they want. I thought there could be a platform in this. Yeah. And so I just pretty much threw all my energy behind and all my sort of resources at the time behind creating a platform that looked large, because I knew it had to give off the impression of longevity and because, you know, if skeptical journalists are going to sort of say, oh, what's this? This is, you know, around for 3.5 minutes. And so I made quite a significant investment for me at the time, and I supplemented it for a long time with PR work.
Right. It's a custom build, isn't it, Sourcebottle?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, sort of at this stage is now a bit frustrating because I'm kind of tied to the platform the way it was fundamentally built over 10 years ago. So, yeah, that creates its own series of challenges. But it is a custom build site.
Yeah, that's like Rachel's list. We've got a custom build, and then we've got, you know, WordPress for our shop and our blog that's sort of married into it. But I can fully relate to the frustrations of having a platform that you can't update yourself easily and all of that sort of stuff. It's tricky.
It's so true.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're keen users of the platform, so obviously we know how to use it. But tell writers how Sourcebottle works, and maybe you'll also tell us that there are some things that we don't know about it and how to use it.
So, Rachel, it's I always kind of say it for people who don't understand. Look, my mother still doesn't really understand what platform does. So, if for those who don't really understand how the sort of media relations PR machinery works, it sounds a little bit strange, but it's kind of like the Tinder for storytellers and good stories.
Nice.
Or it could be, so you think of a journalist, a content producer who's looking for either case studies or subject matter experts. They can post a call out onto this email list, and then they, go out to relevant people who are subject matter experts or people who have great stories to tell, and then they get an opportunity to connect. That's really it.
Oh. So has that model changed over the years, or is it pretty much the way you built it?
It has changed fundamentally in terms of the way it operates and the kind of additional kind of parameters of the service now, that what it offers now as opposed to when it was in its infancy. But I always have this overarching sort of rule. So I find a lot of people, users, so subscribers, Saucy subs, they might try to mold it to do a certain purpose that it wasn't designed for. But if enough do that, and if I think ultimately that is achieving the end objective, which is, for me, I want journalists and bloggers or content producers to be inundated with great sources. So that that's my ultimate objective for them. But also for subject matter experts and sources, I want them to get publicity or fame, whatever comes first, kind of thing. So if I feel like the way it's been trying to be sort of jammed in and used actually achieves one of those objectives, then I will think about stretching the service so that it accommodates that. So by way of example, if I look at the way PRs use it a lot, obviously PRs use it for their clients to find great stories that they can connect their clients, but they also can use it as a content producer as well. And I used it when I was doing PR for sort of a development company. And so what I did is I knew that they were building these houses for domestic violence, people who had suffered at the hands of domestic violence, families, and I knew that they had built these houses for domestic violence families, and I knew that the stats were out there, and I knew that I could find experts with statistics in that particular area about domestic violence, people who were experts who recognise the need for these sorts of expert housing. So those sorts of opportunities, and it was for a network television program. So I put a call out for experts with stats, experts with comments, people who perhaps had life changes as a result of finding accommodation, that sort of thing. And in doing so, I managed to get some television coverage for a domestic violence service provider. As a PR, obviously, I'm wanting to create a credible story. I want a number of different voices to make, to present to a journalist, to something say, look, here's some experts, here's some people who have, in the situation, this is someone who's resolving the issue, providing a solution. It's a great story package. And then you send that off to a journalist. They say, fantastic, let's go with it. And everyone gets really good publicity out of it. So everyone wins. And so I started to think, well, that's a really powerful tool for PRs as well and content producers. And I'm really happy when they use it for that. I'm not happy when they want to use it for things like, can you tell me someone who's using this particular app and had success with it? Well, I'm not going to publish that, because no one's benefiting from that except you telling, you're kind of finding sort of, that's more testimonials. That's not Sourcebottle's fault.
It's really interesting because I've used it for so many years, pretty much since it came out. And I think it has really changed. It's gone through, I've put so many call outs on, and there was a time where I got lots of responses back that might not have been relevant. But recently it's become so much more targeted. And I thought that was you doing stuff in the back, behind the scenes to sort of make sure responses were much more targeted to the call out. And I noticed as well, you can report people if they respond to a call out and, they're completely, off base sort of thing. So I just think it's become a lot more user friendly, but a lot more useful for journalists.
Oh, that's great.
Over the years.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. Yeah, we certainly work on that. It's one of those things when there's a trust. It's a trust policy, and because we don't receive the call outs, the responses ourselves, it's a relationship between the journalist or the blogger and the source. Unless we're told about it. Unless we're told that a journalist is asking for payment, for example, and abusing the service, or unless someone's saying that they're being sent spammy content, we don't know. So because of that trust element, we have to ask for people to report that sort of thing. And it does slip through the cracks. But we're also verifying media now. We're doing a lot more things to sort of safeguard people's kind of responses and to ensure that their time's not wasted. But it's a moving feast.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been going for over 9 years now. Was there a moment that you remember where you thought, wow, this is working. This is really tapping into a need for people?
Yeah. Look, it took a long time, Rachel. I was really surprised. I mean, I think that pivotal point was probably when we reached a critical mass. So once there was, and I wouldn't necessarily say there was a number attached to that, but it was kind of, there was a saturation point where there was sufficient resources, sufficient sources to be able to respond without me. I mean, early on in the stage, I'd see a call and I'd go, who do I know that I can call to respond to this journalist? Like, someone needs a cesarean. Oh, my sister-in-law had one. I'll get her to respond. Like, I was really desperate for it to succeed. And I struggled to understand, I had detractors in the media circles anyway, journalists, and I thought, okay, sort of hacks who've been in it a long time might resent this tool being, maybe making life a little bit easy for journalists.
Or maybe it's an avenue for PRs rather than people going out and sort of stomping the streets or making the phone calls. This does save a lot of time, which is great for a writer, but I can see from an old school perspective, not so
yes,
helpful.
They just called it a tool for lazy journalists.
Yeah.
And then I also had this thing which was just crazy, and it sort of where journalists were like, I'm not telling anybody about this. I'm not telling anyone. This is my delicious secret. I'm not telling people.
Yeah.
Because I'm getting some success with it, and it's giving me an edge, and I'm not telling people about it.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
So, it was difficult in the beginning, and I didn't get a lot of support from, say, PR networks either, which I was surprised by, because I'd been in sort of that PR space for a long time. And I said, listen, this is a tool that I think your members will really benefit from. And it's free. Like, I wasn't sort of asking for it. I said, can you just let them know, industry bodies, and they just ignored me. And so I had media sort of mocking the concept. Like, I remember sending out my first press release, and it was after, like, just trying to announce it. This is a service that's available for journalists. It's free to use, free to whatever. And it was at the same time when Kevin Rudd was Prime Minister the first time, and he went on Rove McManus and he said, fair shake of the sauce bottle, right? And, bastardise it because it's fair suck of the sauce bottle. But, of course, he was on Rove. He was going to be polite. And he said, fair shake of the sauce bottle. And I thought, oh, my God, I've got to launch this now. So it wasn't completely perfectly ready, but this was my point where I thought, I've got to launch this now. Yeah. So I did. And I had, like, journalists all over going, oh, have you heard about this? I'm going to ask for a new pony, and, all this kind of crazy stuff that I was really shocked that someone, or that people would be kind of mean-spirited about it, particularly people who the tool was designed to help.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's what
I do. One of the things I do find it helpful is that because, well, from my perspective as looking for PR sources and looking for sources, is that PRs change a lot.
Yeah.
So I might deal with somebody from, say, a large electronics firm for a story, and I may not need another comment or an image or something from a company like that for another 6 or 8 months. And the person I've dealt with 6 months ago is now no longer there. So I do find if I put it out with Sourcebottle, I tend to connect with the person who's now doing that job. Yeah. Otherwise, I have to make lots of phone calls and lots of bounced emails. And so I think that is quite helpful. And sometimes when I make a call out, I get some surprising people back that I would not have thought of. So maybe if I'm doing a story about, say, washing machines, and I did remember doing something about smart laundries or energy efficiency or something. And that seems sort of boring, talk to, the usual company who do washing machines. But I had an energy provider reach out to me, and that was a really interesting idea. I hadn't thought about it, and they gave me all these energy tips that was sort of like appliance neutral. So they talked about the sort of things to look for to make, and that actually added to my story. And it wasn't somebody I'd actually thought of for that story.
Yeah, so I agree. I agree, Lynne. Like, I did a call out, I think last week, and then I did another call out on the same story because I didn't get exactly what I wanted in other states on sustainable businesses. I think that was last week. You might have seen that go through, Bec. And I got so inundated with amazing businesses. Like, I got all my case studies pretty much that I needed, and the magazine were really happy. But then what I use Sourcebottle for is I build my own CRM with those sources who I perhaps could use in the future. So I go through all the call outs I'm getting, and I'm like, oh, you're not quite right for this story, but I'd love to keep your details for a future story. And then I might put them in a folder in my CRM on experts on sustainability or whatever it is. So it's really useful. Like, even the people I don't use are really useful potentially. Yeah.
Yes.
So it is such a time-saving tool for me in that way. Yeah.
I'm very happy to hear that.
And I do find one of the things as freelancers, which Rachel and I are, and also that's a lot of our audience, sometimes as freelancers, you don't get on the standard media releases. So, I mean, I do now because I've been doing it for such a long time, but quite often PRs just go for the in-house people. And this is a way of accessing the sort of people that might be emailing or sending contacts or connecting with your standard media sources. So I do think it's a great way for freelancers to get connected when they might be missed otherwise. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. I'm very happy. As I said, I'm really happy. I love hearing these things.
Yeah. So tell us about how many journalists and experts you have on your books and what sort of call outs and how many do you get each week?
Well, so at the moment we've got an active subscriber list of about 55,000, and that's more sources and PRs than it is journalists. We don't actually, as you would know, we don't as a journalist, you don't have to be a subscriber to Sourcebottle. So for a long time, I refused to sort of ever, I thought, okay, journalists are getting responses from sources. They don't want to hear from Sourcebottle. And so I never sort of ever cultivated a list of the journalists themselves. But then recently, in the last 2 years, we introduced a verified media service. So to accommodate a lot of freelance journalists and a lot of journalists who didn't want to say the publication or the media outlet that they were from. So I could see, or we could see, the team and I could see where they were from because of the URL, the email.
Yeah.
So if it was from news.com.au, for example, we would know that. But the call out, they might just say a very generic name or label. So it might be something like AFR, and they might just put financial publication, which happens all the time. And I'm like, oh my God, you really want to respond to this call out? It's going to be really good, right? If you're in financial services or something. But they might not know. So I started thinking we've got to somehow verify these journalists. And as a result, now we have the opportunity to verify yourself as a genuine sort of legitimate media practitioner. And that's been really enlightening in terms of the numbers of journalists who are subscribed. I don't have the actual number for you in terms of verified media. So it's for me to be a verified media representative, you have to be, your email needs to showcase that you're from that particular media outlet, or you've got to be a regular user. And and sometimes I'll do a search, like they'll apply and they'll give some, in terms of media audience or some publication, they might give a couple of different publications, and they might give, a huge number. And in terms of the reach of their media outlet, and then I'll just do a search and find out as much as I can about that particular, journalist.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and if I think they're genuine and legitimate, and they can I can see that they've got published material before, then I'll verify them. But I don't just verify just based on application.
Oh, that's interesting, because that's sometimes hard for freelancers. I know with your platform, because I actually work for lots of different publications as a freelancer. So I usually put whatever story I'm working on at that time, or whatever publication, or
I
even
never put the
corporate.
publication.
Yeah,
just because I think someone could gazump me.
Well, that's right. See, this is the thing, Rachel. Like I mean, there are so many reasons why you wouldn't disclose that. And I know PRs in the past have been really naughty. And if they've seen it's from Mamma Mia or something, they'll go straight to Mamma Mia. They'll just cite the whole thing as if they're going to get, because they might know someone in there and think, and then that freelancer gets into trouble. It happened. It's happened with so many journalists where they've said, "Hey, listen, I don't know what's going on. Can you just, curb this person that has gone in and they've floated the story?" And I'm working in a freelance capacity. And so I'm really supportive of people not disclosing necessarily the publication. So I needed to give users of the service some insight into the veracity of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you see so many call outs every week. You help facilitate stories, you have done for over a decade. Are there some weird or memorable ones that you'll never forget? There must be.
there certainly are. There's certainly some really strange ones because we send out at last count, about 14 million emails a year.
Wow.
Like it's a
wow.
And so, and they're all customized based on your selections. Early on, when I didn't have any support, like I didn't have any help, and I was on holiday. How crazy. I was on holiday and I had just it was sort of very early on, even in terms of smartphones. And I had, as I was mentioning before, we have to approve every call out. So we have to because journalists don't always pick the right topics that, they might not, the way it's sort of set out, they may not follow, they might put all the information into the extended sort of description and nothing in this little description, and their subject line might be really long. And so there's a whole lot of things where they might have sort of had some missteps. Anyway, early on, I was approving it, and I was approving them kind of sight unseen. And there was a call out for, how do I politely put this? There was a call out for pleasurable experiences for men by women. And I had only seen the smallest snippet, and I was about to get on a ride in Dringwell with my kids. And I went, oh, yeah, that'll be fine, because there's deadlines. Like, I've got to do it by 10 o'clock in the morning, got to do it by 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I was like, okay, yep, just publish. And then all of a sudden, like, I was inundated. I got off the ride and there was just this sea of emails. And then there was a nice write-up by Tim Burrows in Umbrella at the time where, Sourcebottle was extending the scope of its services to provide pleasurable experiences for men. And I was like, oh, my God.
No.
They say any exposure is good exposure.
Yeah. I don't know that. There were lots of unsubscribes. It's like, I have not signed up to this right service. This is not the service.
Yeah. That's hilarious. Oh, God.
Oh, dear. So tell me about the way your business model works. How do you make money? And is this your main business, or do you have like a side hustle, or is this your side hustle?
Can people hire you as a PR these days or not?
Well, look, I did sort of do some PR work over the lockdown, over COVID, because due to it's a subscription. It's a freemium platform with sort of those upgrades to different subscription levels. And a lot of the subscribers for expert profiles and things like that, which is part of the sort of the value add, which is how it makes money mainly, sort of said, oh, look, I've got no speaking opportunities, or my business is, my events management company is shutting down, or so a lot of those businesses and terminated their subscriptions. And so I started doing some PR work, and I love actually being on the tools. I really enjoy it. It's just a struggle that I don't enjoy. I'm sort of the primary carer for my kids, and although they're getting older, one's in year 12 at the like now, and he's not anywhere near stressed enough about it, in my opinion. But I've a year 6 and a year 12. So there's still a lot of hand-holding and a lot of extracurricular activities and a lot of all of that sort of stuff that needs to be done. And they all need to be fed every day. It's exhausting.
That wasn't in the brochure.
I remember reading this card going, it just said, what? But I fed you yesterday. Yeah. So because of that, and my husband has a really demanding role, and he has to, and he travels a lot. So I sort of do that I'm the primary carer, and I do this, and it was a side hustle for a long time, and then it became the hustle.
Yes.
And then it started to sort of, realize its potential a little bit, but I feel like I'm now getting a little bit more freedom where it's really going to sort of I'm going to ramp things up. I mean, I've never even advertised. I've never really advertised. It's a hard thing to advertise to for people if they don't understand.
It is a bit of a word of mouth, a secret. It can be a secret weapon, isn't it?
It really is. And but I'm sort of making some major iterations with the expert profiles and expert profile directory, so that I'm hopeful will gather a lot of traction and be really valuable to sources. And so, I think it's going to ramp up really significantly now.
And have you got a team working with you, or is it just you?
So I've got I outsource a lot of the tech, but it's kind of a tech team that's been dedicated. I've been dedicated to me since it started, right?
Yeah.
And so I've kind of got that. Yeah. So I pay obviously a fee, a management sort of fee, but that's outside the organisation. And then I've got 2 people who help me, so 2 assistants helping with publishing callouts, like publishing callouts today, because I could do it. So 3 days a week they do the sort of callouts and a lot of that management of the platform. And also I have another person who does a lot of the accounts and subscriptions and manages that side of it. All the advertising, all the content production, pretty much that's me, which can be quite a lot. And managing when you've got a subscriber base of that size, you can understand there are lots of issues, lots of emails, lots of emails.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I do have to help, but it's still a lot. It's still a lot of work. I thought it was naively thinking, I'll set up this set and forget kind of platform. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
What an idiot.
Let's keep positive though. What do you love about running it, and what are some of the not great bits? Guess emails at 2 a.m. are not great.
Yeah, emails at 2 a.m. are not great. You know what I love? I love you guys, like hearing. I never stop getting a thrill when someone says they get some great result from the platform. And that's journalists and content producers and like ourselves, or sources that say, oh my God, I got the most incredible media opportunity as a result of Sourcebottle. That just delights me. It really feeds my soul. I can't I've never grown tired of that. So, and I do get sick of it. I've fallen out of love with Sourcebottle many times. And then something happens and I fall in love with it again, or I think, I know I can make this improvement, and that really makes it better, and all of a sudden I'm interested again, I'm engaged. Different tools and things that sort of enter the market, and I think, that would really work well with this. And so I do have that up and down or love affair with it.
Yes.
But no, I love it. What I hate about it, hate's a strong word, but I really do hate the social media side of it. I hate the fact that people don't believe there's people at the end of these services, and they are the vitriol.
So rude.
Yeah.
It just shocks me. It just shocks me. Always.
Yeah.
Still. Even my stomach. Someone might be paying $6.55 a month, and they're just outraged at something not working. And it's like, I just can't believe it. Here, take your $6.50. And I'm going to unsubscribe you, and I don't want to hear from you again. And I'm now at that stage, though, in the business where I'm confident enough. If someone's rude to me, I'll just unsubscribe them.
Yeah.
I might even block them if they're that rude. It's like, I don't want, like I had someone say, I don't want to be part of this membership platform, like in a paid capacity, didn't want to be part of this. And I'm like, absolutely, happy to refund you, happy to do that. And I'm also going to happily, because they'd been a subscriber for a long time. Yeah. I'm also happy because you've told me you don't want to be part of this community. You've been very clear about that. Okay, well, you're not going to be part of this community. And I know that's almost sounds spiteful, but it's like, I don't have to take it. I don't have to take it.
Yeah. I can so relate to that. It's that whole sense of there isn't the emails you get, they think there isn't a real person reading this or something like that. The rudeness is unbelievable. And I sometimes have people who are so rude and want to, leave Rachel's list, and then a great job will come in and they'll just sneak back in and subscribe again and that sort of thing. So it's funny, isn't it? Like, I really want to reply, that there's a person on the other end of that reading your email. There's no need for that tone or that. Yeah, it's hard, isn't it?
I totally agree. And there is no need. And you sort of think, look, I mean, I've been outraged at times, and I'm thinking, this is irrational outrage. Yeah. I mean, I'm perimenopausal now. Seriously, I get outraged. I just, have to try to refrain from attacking the person, and just sort of saying, look, trying to be constructive. I'm not always successful, but I'm not rude. I just don't want to be, I
Yeah.
just don't understand the need for being rude.
Yeah. A lot of people with a bee in their bonnet who,
Yes.
yeah.
Mm,
But
yeah.
look, on a sort of slightly different note, I know people who've built successful businesses, platforms like Sourcebottle or memberships or, you know, that kind of income stream are often the target of people who want to do something similar or pretty much rebuild what you've done, but slightly differently. And they will come to you and say, can I pick your brains about how you did it and all of that? I mean, how do you handle those requests? Do you get those requests? How do you
Yeah.
handle them? Yeah.
Yes. Often I get them on LinkedIn. Like, oh, I've just, you know, they've just connected and I'm creating this, which sounds, and I'm thinking that sounds exactly like what I do.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to know if you want to work together. I'm like, in short, no. No. I'm like, sometimes I just ignore the message because I'm like, I don't know how to respond to this because I can't believe that you're being so tone deaf and making this approach. I'm a really big believer in collaboration, and I think there's more than enough opportunities for all of us to have thriving businesses in our own right. But that sort of thing, I think, is just, I mean, I've been absolutely devastated when I've had, and I sometimes think maybe they don't see that they've set up a competitor to me, like someone I might have helped a lot at, like, you know, we might have worked together and I've helped a lot in their business and, you know, whether it's as a content producer, they've sort of used the business for a long time. And then all of a sudden they've created this sideline where they're doing call outs as well. And I'll go, or, you know, expert profiles or something as well. And I'll go, I can't believe that you've done that. And you can't see that that's really, like I had someone once say to me, they had a really big network and they'd used the platform a lot to help build this network. And then they said, oh, the journalist just came back to me. And then I started just sending, you know, doing these opportunities through my own network for those, you know, journalists. When they'd come and I'd go, oh, but I've also got this network. You can tap into this network. I'm going, you don't see that that's totally in competition with what I do. Like, I want you to be successful and I want your membership to benefit, but I don't want you to usurp my service to just do that. Like, and so I get surprised when people do that. I don't think they do it in a malicious way. Like when they come up and say, yeah, my service is like yours and I really want to pick your brains about how you got that immediate, you know, how you struggled for the first couple of years and how I want to piggyback on that and actually avoid all that struggle that you've had.
Yeah.
But no, the ones that sort of seemingly just don't, you know, I understand they just maybe don't understand. And so I have to kind of be, I don't know, understanding about that. But it's disappointing. I get disappointed. It's really hurtful and it's really disappointing. You know, I've had big media, you know, you would know, big platforms where I've had journalists contact me and they've said, hey, listen, do you know that this big platform is doing this? Every time a journalist would post a call out, that big platform would contact them and say, hey, do you want to join our list and be part of our, you know, and because we do that too, like that sort of stuff, like head-bendingly, overtly outrageous behaviour that is trying to undermine my service. But the journalist is so nice and they'll sort of say, hey, listen, did you know they're doing this? And then I've got that sick feeling in my stomach and it's like, oh, God. Awful. But anyway.
Awful.
Yeah.
I just have to be better. You just have to say, oh, well, I just want to be the best service out there. So it sort of makes you go, okay, I need to wear my, you know, big girl underpants and just need to say, okay, well, I just need to make this service better. I just have to be better.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk a little bit about content compared to journalists, because what Rachel and I see with all our listeners and a lot of the members of Rachel's list is that more and more journalists, particularly freelancers, are doing content. So a lot of the people we've had, the journalists we've had, do a mixture. How does that work if you're sort of a content creator? So I work for some construction companies as well as doing some interior magazines. How do the call outs differ and what should I keep in mind when I do that sort of thing?
Look, the call outs really don't need to differ at all. Lynne, if you're writing for a publication and you want subject matter experts, your publication is just as important as meaningful as any other publication or any other outlet. And so I have a lot of content producers who work for lots of different clients. They're just as likely to generate a really positive opportunity for a source. So I take it all exactly, it's just as serious. So and then I'll verify a lot of content producers. So, even just copywriters, those sorts of people who might start, or content producers, not so much copywriters, but content producers who have like those sorts of services that you're just really freelance journalists, really, in my opinion. And I just think your opportunities are fantastic. So I would say you post just like any other sort of journalist would post. What I think is really important in those sorts of instances is I really don't like the posts that sell the call out, like, or, some of them are really salesy, and I know it's like, this is revolting. It detracts from the credibility of the call out. At the same time, so for example, the AFR is obviously a financial services publication, but it's also a national financial service. So there are ways of, when you're describing the media outlet that you're writing for, to make it have a bit of sizzle to make it a compelling opportunity for someone, but really just, remove any sort of salesy type stuff and just make it, I think, sort of put up front the type of expertise you want. And maybe, rather than, have you ever, there are some that kind of they bury the lead in sort of all this. They're looking for someone who's an expert in colour palettes for, nursing homes or something. Okay. And so they might sort of put nursing homes or something. Like, they might do something quite generic as a heading, and then in the middle of it, it's like, so looking for an expert on, and it's like, well, maybe it's an interior designs, maybe it's something like that, and that should be up front, because that's what's going to be scanned and seen first. So if we start sort of thinking more the subject matter expert in the headline, as opposed to some kind of, like, what you would put in the title of an article, that's not really what we want. Sort of, what's the subject matter expert you're looking for? And tell me what you want, and if you want to include questions there. Say specifically what you want, and have a genuine deadline.
Yes.
And not an unrealistic deadline. Like, so if you're asking lots of questions, don't have the deadline end of the close of business today. It's like, okay, I mean, get in touch by close of business today, but if you want that follow on where you want those answers to those questions, give them a little bit of time.
Yeah.
I don't know if that helps.
Yeah. No, I think we did have a question about, the mistakes that journos make or content producers make when reaching out for sources, and if there is a way to craft an effective call out. But I think it's really interesting what you just said about, make that top headline about the the subject matter expert that you want.
Yeah.
Totally makes sense. I was going to talk to you a bit about how you promote the call outs, because I know that you use Twitter. Obviously, I follow you and see them come through. So are we going to be seeing your call outs on Threads?
Right. Well, I'm actually looking at that. Like, Twitter has been my favorite social media, like sandpit, for such a long time, and I'm really saddened at the way it's changing. And, obviously it's the one that's still being used predominantly by journalists and PRs and things like that. So, but it's so toxic and it's so spammy, and there's I'm not seeing who I want to see anymore. And I can see that user experience has really deteriorated, certainly from my perspective. They've also stopped the ability for our service to automatically tweet. Right. So now it stopped about 3 weeks ago. So now we have to manually tweet. So it's another step. And so they're making it harder unless you pay, right? Which is fine. I don't know whether the metrics justify going to that next step. Yeah. And also because I don't know about the longevity of Twitter. I just don't know how much longer it's going to be a meaningful tool for journalists and sources. I mean, I use it obviously it was instrumental in growing the subscriber base in Sourcebottle at the beginning. It was absolutely fundamentally instrumental. So I feel a sense of loyalty to the platform itself. No other platform has been as useful, but it's making it really hard. And if I'm finding sources are being driven away from the platform, then it's not really for journalists to use. It's really for sources to use, because they're answering questions, right?
Yeah.
Or they're answering the call. And so if I've just dabbled, I only started in my experience with Threads over the weekend. Rachel, have you guys? Oh, actually, I've seen you on there already.
The content bite is on there, and then I was reading something from Bec Lambert, who said you can only have one account, and I was like, awesome, I could just really focus on building the content bite on Threads, and because we're trying to build the content bite a bit more anyway.
Of course,
but then I realized you could have Threads on Rachel's List, so I started a Rachel's List Threads account. But it's just like overwhelming. It's like what, like another platform thing to have to feed and all of that. So I haven't posted anything on Rachel's List Threads.
Yeah, well, I did the same, and it's hard to change between them. Like, and I like to, with that sort of stuff, I'm back to my phone. I mean, I've never been an Instagram person, so, and I really don't like Facebook much at all. So I feel it's hard. It's hard. And there's that, exactly, and there's sort of 32,000 or whatever 1,000 on Twitter, followers on Twitter. Now I've got to start again. Like, it's
I think the thing as well that's just come out about Twitter isn't he stopping? If you're not verified on there, you can only see 600 tweets a day or something.
Oh, is that right? Well, see, I was never verified.
So, it's becoming very unusable for journalists in that respect.
Of course it's going to be.
Yeah.
Yes, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, he's killing it.
But to go on to Threads, it means you're then having to build those numbers, and it's overwhelming, isn't it?
Well, I mean, in some respects, I suppose I should be thankful, because it means that platforms like Sourcebottle might be more user. Like, some journalists who might have just used Twitter might think, okay, well, I've got Sourcebottle, like, at least I can use that. That's what I've always said with social media. It's such a temporary thing. You always want to grow your own list, never rely on that platform as being providing you.
So true. Yeah.
I wanted to ask also about PR as well, because I've seen lots of changes, and I think that every brand or business is fighting a little bit harder for coverage these days. And I also see that a lot of companies are stopping using PR agencies or PR external people, particularly they're more inclined to use social media. So how has PR changed and getting coverage changed over the years from what you see?
It's a really interesting question, Lynne. I think PR is, I think it's kind of digital PR and SEO seem to be all mixed up together, and it's all just about content. And I find more and more PRs are understanding they need to, like, it's not about sort of doing a media release anymore. It's about creating a complete package of stories, including the sort of digital aspect from, like, footage, images, whatever it is, making that complete package. As I said before, if you're pitching to a public, like, have your other experts there, sort of have done the whole story for the journalist to make it easier for them. I think newsjacking is becoming much more widely understood, and with this sort of 24/7 news cycle as well.
What do you mean by newsjacking?
So recognising or identifying an opportunity where you can inject yourself, your client, into an existing story at a pivotal time. So I talk a lot about it in some of the content on Spin the Sourcebottle, which is the blog on Sourcebottle. And I put out calendars all the time, which highlight sort of, so, just say it's Diabetes Week. So I put it out sort of for experts, particularly for people with expert profile subscriptions, 3 months in advance, so they can see, well, there's a milestone event up there. So I need to, if I'm going to do some research, or if I'm going to get some case studies, or if I'm going to write a piece of particularly for lifestyle publications and stuff like that, with long lead times, I can start getting in advance of that story. But newsjacking an existing story might be, okay, so I do one example where Apple, what's her name? Gwyneth Paltrow's daughter came out on social media. This was years ago, and it was a perfect example of how to newsjack a story. And she came out and said, Mum, I told you on social media, she responded to her mum posting a picture of her on her social media feed. Mum, I told you not to do that anymore, right? And I thought, okay, so the reasons this was newsworthy, celebrity, right, all that sort of stuff. And then privacy and, what rights do kids have in terms of parents using. So you've got all these follow-on questions and you think, okay, well, if I was acting for a legal firm that worked on privacy, or if I was thinking about parental issues, or even cybersecurity, like a whole lot of things where, you're disclosing different information about, what child, about consent, all those sorts of issues. So you start to think about follow-on questions that might be interesting to that journalist or a journalist who deals in that subject matter, and you start pitching those stories in with your expert and all that sort of stuff. So we have to just be really, really smart about how to insert ourselves into news at those critical time moments, because that's such a small window before other people beat you to. So anyway, that's, hopefully I've explained, that's sort of that newsjacking. I think that's becoming more and more important, and particularly from an SEO perspective, because when people are looking for those sorts of news articles or looking for answers to those follow-on questions, they'll just search online. And if you're the first one there and you're using all the right words, as a content producer, that's pretty powerful stuff in getting traction for your client.
Yeah. Talk us through your average week running Sourcebottle for you or your team. Like, how does it all work?
For me, I'm always thinking about sort of either advertising or having good content each day and trying to keep it fresh every couple of days. So I sort of do that stuff behind the scenes. We're looking at, in terms of the call-outs, everyone has to be approved. If they expire, they have to be removed. Sometimes if I think, it might be a difficult call out and maybe there weren't many sources, I might sort of reach out to the journalist and say, hey, listen, do you want this run again? In other words, sort of assuming that perhaps that deadline wasn't a concrete, hard and fast deadline. They might have been unsuccessful. Do they want another prod along? Sometimes they'll say, no, we're all sorted. Sometimes they'll say, yes, please. So sort of doing that, so republishing, publishing content.
You do a newsletter twice a day, do you?
Twice a day. So at 9 o'clock, kind of you start sort of counting down. Yeah. I suspect much like you were sort of saying before with your newsletter as well. So 10 o'clock for the 10 o'clock deadline. So we've got a 10 o'clock and a 2 o'clock. So if journalists post any call outs or requests before that, in the lead up to that, try to make sure that we get them published in time.
What's the latest that we can send you a call out? Because often I miss it, or I get it in at like 9:55 and I think
I know. Well, look, sometimes 9:55 is absolutely enough time, 5 minutes, but sometimes
depends on the call out.
It depends on the call out. It depends how well you've set it out. Yeah. But also, no, it depends what, some days, you've got to see, you might have 20 or so call outs or something to go through, or you might have 30, of which 20 are sort of Australian based and some are international, but you've got to approve them all. And you might not get to the end and sort of all of a sudden it's 10 o'clock and too bad, so sad. Then they go out to the 2 o'clock one. I often find certain days are really, really busy, and some days, and they've changed, which is really interesting. So Mondays used to be one of those kind of filler days where you just kind of, you get all the junk from over the weekend. There's a lot of rats and mice type stuff. Now Mondays seem to be really, really good. Like, people seem to be doing a lot of work on weekends. And then Tuesday, it used to be Tuesday and Thursday were the busiest days, but now they're not the busiest days. So sometimes it's more Monday, Wednesday. Yeah. And sometimes even Friday afternoon, which used to be kind of a dead day where no one really, now I'm getting ones that are urgent for, 5 p.m. on a Friday. I'm like, oh God, I hope people are still reading their drink up alerts at 2 o'clock. So so approving the call outs, cleaning out the call outs, responding to queries, subscription issues, content platform issues. It's really full on. So on most days we get probably about between 30 to 50 call outs if you look at all of them to publish every day. And as I said, when you've got a big subscription base, there can be a lot of queries or a lot of bounce backs, a lot of email issues with more and more people with really tight protection or tight restrictions on what they receive and what goes through their spam filters. We get lots of bounce backs, particularly when we've got things like, sexual health expert. So we have to be really careful about what's put in the headline and what's put, sometimes we might do a line through to try to see if we can get through some spam. But, we get some of the crazy call-outs we get from publications like Mamma Mia. They're like, or there are a couple of sexual health publications that we publish call-outs for that are quite talking about masturbation and things like that are obviously get caught by spam filters. And then all of a sudden, if it bounces a couple of times, it's a hard block and we have to unblock them but we won't know unless people say, listen, I haven't received my call-outs for 2 weeks. Anyway, so there's lots of that.
And is your email marketing built into the platform, or do you use an external email marketing program?
It's built into the platform.
Yeah.
And it's such a, because I know that in terms of having sequencing and trying to target and promote to subscribers is something I need to probably contemplate. It's just, I think the appetite for that when you're already sending out 2 emails a day is really low. And so I'm quite reluctant to promote through email marketing in any traditional way, in the new, obviously innovative way where you have these sequences and you create these funnels and building your list that way. It just doesn't work because I cannot hit the subscriber base up more than I already am. Their tolerance levels wouldn't allow for it. So I have to be creative.
Yeah.
One of the things we love doing on the podcast is asking guests for their tech tips. Are there any useful digital tools that, make your life easier between either running Sourcebottle or maybe even the business or just your life? How does that work?
There's a great one that I use all the time and I would be lost without it. And it's a browser organizer called Toby. I don't know if you've ever heard of Toby.
No.
So good. It's totally changed this is the way I organize things. So everything, all my browser favorites are all organized. And so I can access Toby from any device. That's really useful when I'm kind of so I might just have a Sourcebottle one that goes to the CMS, it goes to Twitter, it goes to whatever, and have all those tabs and I can just open it and just use it wherever I am. Things like that. Obviously Canva, I find every other platform I've ever used has never been as good as Canva. I use a document, so for accounts and things like that, it's called HubDoc. Have you heard of HubDoc?
Oh, yeah.
No, I haven't.
HubDoc's really good. But to be honest, I use things like Write Cream. I use things like Fraser. There are all these content sort of research content brief to help me put together a content brief, and even just sort of the top lists for articles and a particular keyword topic, so for easy content to produce on Spin the Sourcebottle, things like that. I use a service called AppSumo. I don't know if you've ever.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Oh my God, I'm a total junkie, and I've wasted lots of money on AppSumo, but it provides so new sort of SaaS platforms. Often they need a critical mass, which I understand personally, and so they go and they give lifetime deals so it's a new platform. And I've got things like, platforms that have now gone on to be really successful, and I've got a lifetime deal subscription on this particular platform for the rest of my life.
Wow.
For $69 US dollars. And so I dip into AppSumo and they have some really great products. I've got way too many. I never use them all, but but that's a really good platform for people looking for, particularly with AI. They're all integrating AI into their platforms now too, and so for content producers, it's a really useful tool.
Yeah,
Oh, that's great.
How amazing. Oh, Bec, we could keep talking to you, but I think we're going to blow out on our
on our time limit.
On our time limit. But thank you so much for coming
Oh,
on. Tell us
pleasure.
where people can find you personally and also find Sourcebottle.
To find the website and sign up to be a source or post a call out, it's just Sourcebottle, SOURCE bottle.com. And for me, it's just rdarrington@sourcebottle.com. It's pretty easy. Or Twitter or LinkedIn. It's Bec Derrington everywhere. Look it up and connect with me. I'm happy to connect. I'd love to say I really want to connect on Twitter, but I just don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to say that. Come and find me on Threads.
Yeah. We will hunt you down.
I gave up Twitter a long time ago, so maybe I'll find you on Threads.
I'm still hanging on with my fingernails, but you know.
You and me both, Rachel. Yeah. I know. But I will come and find you on Threads.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, thanks so much, Bec, for being our guest. We really loved it. There's so much. We've got bookmarked everything that you've been talking about. It's been really interesting. Amazing. And hopefully it brings you a lot of extra people to Sourcebottle, people that have either forgotten about it or have not heard about it. We hope, because we think it's a great tool and we can highly recommend it. So
really appreciate the opportunity, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
Pleasure. So that's the end of our show this week. So don't forget to rate or review us on the platform where you find your podcasts.
Yes, and you'll find the show notes in your podcast app. So head there to find out more about where you can connect with Bec and to hear all about the Content Bite Summit. We're also starting something new where we're going to be doing, a more accessible way to experience the podcast. We're going to be doing a longer sort of show notes blog post on Rachel's list and on our own website eventually, thecontentbite.com. So look out for that, and you can read all about what we're talking about.
And it's almost like going back and re-listening, isn't it? And getting all the notes that you wish. Because I think people do access podcasts a lot when they're out and about. Yeah.
Kind of a tidied up transcript, if you will.
Yes.
So look out for that.
Yeah, and I should say thanks again to our sponsors, rounded.com.au, because they're easy in accounting and invoicing software, and they're just made for Australian freelancers and sole traders. So go to rounded.com.au.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.